Position no mouth is the head turbans and the Easter sea is net and the talk walk you in the said you sitting in here loud, you sit in us loud, we don't rip us away. You have no idea what I just said, do you? That's the point, okay? So this is Pentecost Sunday. This is the end of the Easter season, and it's the celebration of the birthday of the church, where Jesus promised the Holy Spirit would come to his disciples after he had left, and it would give them all the tools, all the courage, all the gifts that they needed to spread the good news to the whole world. And it begins with the Holy Spirit resting on them in tongues of fire and giving them the ability to speak in all of the languages of the people present listening so that they could hear them in their own language. That's called the gift of tongues, speaking in tongues, all right? But here's the wild thing. There's two readings that tie in this Sunday together. One is the Acts of the Apostles and the speaking of tongues, but the first reading is a reading from Genesis where man, this tribe of people, creates a tower that they try to use to get to God. They're all lost and they're confused. They can't figure out how they get to God, so they decide they're going to build a tower. And God's like, no, that's not how you get to me. You're proud, you're arrogant, and I'm going to cause you to speak in different languages so nobody can understand each other, and you can't build this tower. I got to show you exactly how you can actually get closer to me. All right, so I'm going to read to you kind of a piece from both of these. They're both kind of long, so I'm just going to give you the gist of them, but I want you to compare them and realize that the Tower of Babel happens thousands of years before Jesus. And Jesus comes and kind of corrects the Tower of Babel and sets it all right again and actually gives the ability to speak to all languages and all creeds and cultures. Okay, so here we go. A reading from the book of Genesis. This is the Tower of Babel. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we shall be scattered abroad upon the whole face of the earth." The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which mortals had built. And the Lord said, "Look, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. Nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language there, so that they will not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore it was called Babel, because the Lord there confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, now let's head over to Acts of the Apostles. This happens right after Jesus ascends into heaven and leaves now the Holy Spirit for the disciples. Okay, this is a reading from the Acts of the Apostles. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place, and suddenly from heaven there came the sound of a rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. And all of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem, and at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we each hear, each of us in our own native language?" All were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others sneered and said, "They're all just drunk." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. That last line, that's priceless. These guys are like, they've just been drinking. Okay, they got started. They're just drunk. You see what happens here in the first story. This is in the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible. And in Genesis, the people decide that they can reach God on their own, and they can create themselves in whatever way they want. And they've decided that they're going to build a city themselves of their own. They take their trust in God and they put it in themselves, and they begin to construct this city, and they build this tower to heaven. And God is like, time out. If they continue on this way, then they're going to be bankrupt. They're going to be corrupt. They have no guidance. They have no moral basis. They don't have me anymore. I can't let them carry on like this. It's going to be a ruin. And so God says, I have to confuse them. I got to thwart their efforts. And so he causes them to all speak in different languages, and they can no longer communicate with each other, and they're scattered. And this ability to build a tower to heaven and reach God on their own is taken away. Now, fast forward thousands of years to the Acts of the Apostles. Jesus leaves the Holy Spirit, gives the disciples the ability to speak to every person in their own language. God gives them the ability now to bring the people of God back together and to give them the ability to share the good news of Jesus. Jesus, the one who creates the way to get back together, to get in relationship with God. What man broke apart and tried to do on his own, God comes through Jesus and the Holy Spirit and says, now we can be one again, and gives the Holy Spirit to the disciples to pull back together all of the tribes that were scattered because of their own pride and arrogance. And now they have the ability to speak to each one so that they can go and witness to them and show them the way back in their relationship with God. Fascinating story. I love how the Old Testament reading ties into the New Testament this week. It was a really, really incredible gift that God gave us in the Holy Spirit. The courage and the ability to reach out and speak and share good news to people who need it. All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Love you very much. See you in the next one.